attending physician statement. This is a statement, a form that is sent out by the underwriting department to the various doctors, physicians who have seen your client recently. Your client has provided their contact information as part of that part 2 of the application, the medical section, and they will ask this doctor's office, usually they copy the files, they say we'd like the most recent, say 2 or 3 or 5 years of their information, and tell us any pertinent information that we need to know about this client from a health standpoint. So it gives a more complete, full, and in medical terms, what's going on or what has gone on with the client in the past. So it allows the underwriters to have a more complete picture of this person's medical history, because they have to ascertain that whether or not this person offers a large amount of risk or not quite as much risk as they might have thought, based on what the doctor's answers and information are that they obtain by sending out the attending physician's statements, because these are the physicians that have attended to or cared for this particular proposed insured. They want to find out that information from the source. Very big part of the underwriting process. Attending physician statements, sometimes referred to as an APS. One of the reasons that insurance companies use the attending physician statement, first of all, it's a lot of detail that just gives a much clearer picture of the client. But oftentimes, they can gather enough information from the data on the application and then the responses to the attending physician statement, and it might save the proposed insured the time and energy to have to go through full physical. Plus, it's cheaper for the insurance company if they do rely on the attending physician statement as opposed to putting a person through a full physical, because any physicals, lab work, all the way up through EKGs and full treadmill tests and all of that, those things are always paid for by the insurance company. So if they can get good, complete information from APSs, oftentimes it will save the cost of having to do much more detailed actual physical exams of the client, which is a cost to the insurance company. The Medical Information Bureau, or MIB. This is a nonprofit trade organization that is made up of all the different insurance companies. They're the only people who use this source of information. This is another underwriting source. This bureau, if you will, stores and shares the medical information only among all the other member insurance companies. So it's very private, again, because it's a lot of personal medical information on people. It helps the insurance companies to be able to determine if this person has maybe some adverse medical history, or maybe there's some type of very material misrepresentation that were made on previous applications with other companies. So it's kind of an alert, if you will, to the other insurance companies as someone's trying to go through this process maybe multiple times. Why is this client going to 7 different insurance carriers in 2 months trying to look for insurance? So it gives them a kind of a heads up, there might be something going on here, make sure you get enough information, kind of a thing. The adverse medical information from the MIB cannot be the only source used, and they cannot make a decision solely based on what they may or may not find on the MIB. It's just a piece of information that goes into the entire underwriting process. The Fair Credit Reporting Act has actually 2 parts to it. There's a pre-notification and a post-notification. Usually, the pre-notification is done in the form of a disclosure on the application, where it'll say, ABC Insurance Company may require a consumer report, which is a credit report, or a consumer investigative report, which is they actually will hire an investigative company to go out and interview people who know you, your friends, your co-workers, people at church. Are you really the person you say you are? Do you live where you say you live? Now, do they do this all the time? No. But if they need it for the underwriting process, by you, the proposed insured, signing the application below, you're giving them the okay to go ahead and run either the consumer and or the consumer investigative report. So that takes care of that pre-notification. They may not use it because it says they may require it. The post-notification comes into play if they go ahead and order either or both of these consumer reports or consumer investigative reports. If the insurance company decides that they need this information as part of the underwriting process, once they get those reports done, they have to notify the proposed insured that we did the following. We did run a consumer report, which is a credit report, and these are the companies that we used, and here's all their contact information. So if you want to find out what your credit report was, you, the proposed insured, have to go to these various providers of that information and request your reports from them. You, the agent, do not go get this report for the proposed insured. It's their responsibility because it is private information. You will never see it. It goes right to the underwriting department. It doesn't come through you, the agent. So you will tell your client, no, you are responsible for those reports. That's why we gave you the address and contact information. If you want that information, you have to reach out to the providers of that information that our company used. That's how the insurance companies handle the requirements of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, both the pre and the post notification of the proposed insured that those reports indeed were run. Another bit of paperwork that is part of the application process is the HIV consent. The insurer basically provides two forms. Basically, one is to say that we may run an HIV/AIDS test, and do you give us the permission to do that if we feel that it's necessary? Client has to say yes, otherwise, of course, it can't be run. The other document is filled out by the proposed insured with their doctor's contact information. So should there be a positive result that comes out of them testing for HIV/AIDS, they have to know what medical doctor needs to be contacted. Then they would send that information to the proposed insured's doctor, and the medical professional would contact the proposed insured and get them into the office to talk to them about the results of the test. You as an agent would never be expected to deliver that kind of information. They want a medical professional to be the one to do it. Therefore, they could answer all the questions that someone might have with that type of discovery. So you have to be very, professional and cautious with how this is handled. The protocols for testing are set up by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. You have, again, that first form is the written consent to even run the tests, and then provide the medical information of their physician, so that if they need to be told that they did have positive results, it would be done by a medical professional. Let's talk a bit more about the HIV consent form. Requiring an HIV test is not unfair discrimination as long as all the conditions are met properly. First of all, the testing is required of all individuals in the same class. Let's talk about class. A class, one of the basic classes is always going to be based on your age, your gender, and are you a smoker, non-smoker. So that's going to be a class for each one of you with different ages and whether or not you're male, female, and if you smoke or not. So if they're going to ask you, whatever your class is, they would have to be asking the same HIV questions to all people of the same class as you are. Otherwise, it would be discrimination. The proposed insured is not denied coverage solely based on that test. They have to have other reasons, and also sometimes there are false positives, so they might need to be retested by another lab or something like that. That sometimes happens. And the tests and testing procedures, again, they're approved through the U.S. FDA, and they have to comply with all state and federal laws that relate to the HIV testing. So that we're not trying to single out clients or anything like that. We have to be non-discriminatory in how we approach this in the industry.